Everybody, welcome to the Age of Quarantine. I'm your host, Chris Enriquez. Thanks for spending your Thursday night with me and for always supporting everything that we do here on the St. Vitus Bar Instagram channel. Really appreciate it. You guys are great, and I want to thank Dave Castillo, my co-host, and I want to thank Artie Shepard, my other co-host. We're on episode 100 and something. I can't even fucking keep up with it anymore, which is fucking crazy. But we're in the hundreds. So thanks to everybody that's been supporting. And if you missed any episodes that you wanted to check out, you can find them on my personal YouTube channel. If you just go on YouTube and look up Christopher Enriquez, you'll find a lot of past episodes. You'll also find past episodes at the Revolver Magazine YouTube channel. My guest tonight is a friend and a New York legend, not just a hardcore legend, but a New York legend. And his name is Walter Schreifels, and he has played in Quicksand, Youth of Today, Rival Schools, Walking Concert, Dead Heavens, Quicksand, Youth of Today, Gorilla Biscuits, Warzone. So yeah, he's very prolific. He's done a lot of cool shit, and he's just a super, super, super nice guy. Looks like he's ready to join, so I'm going to get him on the screen. Hey, Walter.
Hey, Chris.
Good to see you, man.
Same, man. Holy cow, that was a great introduction.
Oh, thank you so much. I just did it on the fly. It's really easy when you really believe what you're saying, I guess.
I was waiting for you to skip Warzone. I was like, Warzone.
Well, no, trust me. I know your history, man. I've been a fan for a long time. Where are you at? It looks like you're in the suburbs.
I am in upstate New York in North Branch, which is in Sullivan County. It's in the Catskills area.
Oh, what a nice place to be with the family, man. I'm glad to hear that.
It's awesome. Yeah, we're having a great time up here.
Is that the My Bloody Valentine Supreme collection that you're wearing right now?
Yes.
God, damn, I wanted to buy that shirt. That's a fantastic shirt.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, but I like the color.
Yeah, hell yeah, that was my favorite. I was trying to justify spending money on like all the Supreme stuff during the break when I saw that, knowing that, you know what I'm saying? But,
right. No, you're helping Supreme.
I am helping Supreme. That's a good thing. So let me ask you, man, how have you been managing to get through this pandemic?
Say again?
How have you been managing to get through this crazy pandemic?
Oh, wow. Good. I think, I've been very fortunate. Like I went upstate pretty much as soon as it happened in March. And, you don't really experience it in the same way, like in New York. I mean, it's just, people wear masks at the grocery store and stuff like that. But if you're just like hanging out, it's like life is not really that different. So,
Right.
It's been really nice. And just watching the seasons change and, watching all the little critters and bugs and leaves and flowers and all these different, cycles. Yeah. I kind of check in every once in a while, but never really see the slowness of it roll out. That's been really cool.
It's a great time to be around nature. I'm jealous of anybody I know that gets to be in that kind of environment right now. It's very cool. Well, so yeah, has the pandemic inspired you at all to be creative and do any writing or home recording or anything of that nature?
I'm doing, I guess, just kind of little sketches, like nothing with any sort of like I think the whole COVID thing, when it all happened in lockdown, like, and all that, it's like, I think there's going to be a lot of really cool art and stuff that comes out of it. But I've just been doing, like, if I feel inspired, I'll just kind of throw something down and without much ambition to it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that. And really quick, I want to say something to the audience. We got a bunch of people watching from all over the place. Looks like we have people from Washington, D.C. and Brazil and a bunch of familiar friends in the New York area. Thanks for watching. If anybody has questions for Walter, there's a question mark box on the bottom of the screen that I'll get to about half past the hour. But and in the comments, if you want to talk, all good. It's easier for me to read the questions in the box if you leave them there. You know, this is an hour where we kind of just get into your life a little bit, and
Cool.
yeah, like, so this is a good time to tell your life story. So by all means, indulge. How did music enter your life? And, you know, maybe just kind of elaborate on who some of the first artists were that meant something to you.
I guess I grew up, you know, my parents were going to college when I was little, so there's a lot of music around, and you know, just, you know, kind of Cat Stevens, kind of Steely Dan, 70s, Crosby, Stills and Nash, that kind of thing was very much, you know, yacht rock was definitely the cool, not, you know, with my parents, like that was, so that definitely soaked in. But I think when I had a chance to kind of like pick my own music, I went really against that and sort of found, you know, initially, of course, going through the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Beach Boys, you know, just, I think I had a pretty typical journey through those classic sources, and just hearing music around me, and, you know, but I guess when I started to pick my own music was when I went to see this double feature of The Kids Are All Right, the Who movie.
Yes.
And it was a double feature, and the movie that opened was called Rock and Roll High School, and I had like no idea what that was, and that was the Ramones movie. Right. So in this afternoon, I just sat there for whatever it was, 3 hours, and just, you know, that kind of set the course for my life. It's like, first of all, I want to go to Rock and Roll High School for sure. Have to go to, I don't know where that is zoned, but we're moving to that zone. And, right. And just the kind of intensity of the Who, and the kind of, you know, the sort of, the sharpness of it, and the sensationalism of it, really struck me. And without like having any sort of like musical knowledge about anything, right. Really, it's just like, you know, it's like when you see in the 60s and the Who are doing something crazy, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It just, sure. I love that shit. And the Monkees too. The Monkees was another really cool show.
Yeah, because they had a TV show at the time.
They had a TV show. They looked like they're having fun, like just four best friends, like everyone loves them. And, you know, that seemed like, you know, all those kind of things like led me in a direction of like wanting to learn how to play guitar. I mean, that really happened as I got into, like AC/DC really got me started. When I first started playing guitar, I was into AC/DC, and I was also starting to get into like a little bit more punk stuff, like Dead Kennedys and Suicidal Tendencies, some of the bigger things. And that was kind of when I not transitioned, but you know what I mean? Like went from sort of this classic rock AC/DC world more into, yeah, just kind of more stuff that was happening coming from, you know, the underground, or, you know, I would read Rolling Stone, and if something got a good review, even if I didn't hear it on the radio, I would, like, I bought like REM's first EP because Rolling Stone gave it a good review with like no reference.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I would do stuff like that to find out about music.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Who. I feel like a lot of people from your generation always mention Kiss, so it's like the Who is more of your thing. And just cool to mention AC/DC and Ramones, because those seem like really good bands to listen to if we're trying to figure out how to play like power chords.
Yeah.
Which was my next question. How did you come to learn how to play guitar?
A guy, I think it was in like 7th grade, a classmate. I mean, I had an acoustic guitar. Me and my friends would just kind of like make up our own songs, like on one string. Like we didn't know how to tune it. You know, we would just like make up our own little songs, but then one of our friends got a guitar teacher somehow, and he was only $5 a lesson.
Wow.
So I took my like $35 in birthday money or Christmas money and bought 7 lessons.
Right.
And from there, from those like whatever initial lessons, like I learned all the chords, and you know, within like 6 months, I could kind of like move my hands around the guitar, and I used to buy like sheet music, you know, like I'm buying Surfing USA sheet music by the Beach Boys, and just being like, if everybody had a and
Right.
USA.
I love that. And it's great too, because those are like such like nursery rhyme type stuff that they're very catchy and memorable. So it's a great thing to have when you're just kind of figuring it out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basic chords, and you know, there were still things that I was still a fan of those classic things, but as it quickly progressed, you know, like I learned, you know, Back in Black, You Shook Me All Night Long, and then I was into punk stuff, and I remember my guitar teacher, I wanted to learn Holiday in Cambodia, and you know, AC/DC was bad enough. I mean, with the horns and, you know, the devil references or whatever, you know, Hell Ain't No Bad Place to Be, or Hell's Bells and all that. That was okay. It's ironic, actually, now I think about it. But my guitar teacher was a very, very nice man, like such a cool guy. And his name was Walter, actually, too, which was, I meet many Walters, to be honest.
Right.
And he had this big, beautiful Martin guitar. And you know, he taught me Hell's Bells. And then I was getting more into punk. So it's like, I want to learn how to play Holiday in Cambodia by Dead Kennedys. And he was like, by who? And he's like, Walter, I'm sorry, I can't teach you a song by a band called the Dead Kennedys.
Oh man,
very bad taste, and I can't be a part of that. So then, you know, so then I started to get more into figuring out my own songs and not waiting for the guitar teacher. But I think it ironic now that he was cool with teaching me Hell's Bells, which is like literally.
Yeah, it's so strange because it's on the radio or something.
But Holiday in Cambodia, which is actually kind of like has a libertarian almost bent to the lyrics, like that, because of the Kennedys. That's why I think.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I described you. I don't remember who said this about you, but I thought it was so spot on. So somebody had described you somewhere as the David Bowie of the New York hardcore scene. I don't know if it was Drew Stone. I read it somewhere, which I totally think is very true. I'm interested in knowing, as far as like, you've mentioned like kind of the artists that you grew up on, but in terms of like songwriters, guitarists, and vocalists, can you indulge me on who some of the most impactful people are for you and your style?
Yeah. Well, David Bowie for sure is a huge influence, but more later, you know, for me, I mean, I loved his hits when I was little, but I didn't really understand, you know, the arc of his music and his career and the thinking behind it. You know, I was more just like, you know, wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Like, you know, the simplicity of the apparent simpleness of it, but it's like very complex. I love David Bowie, Bob Dylan. I mean, I really have had the chance over a long time to like, and it's still happening, but really dig into the classics and the artists that really have that staying power and that sort of ability to like play to be relevant and interesting throughout their career, you know, because what are they willing, you know, what are they can tell you their secrets or whatever, but you can't really do them. But if you internalize some of their music, yeah, well, some of it's in you, you know, in a way, or those are your inspirations. So I love that. But I'm still just amazed, I mean, by how many incredible songs there are that, I mean, I'm sure, you know, you're a big music person as well, but like, how did I not hear this song until now? Like,
yeah, it's a fun thing to go backwards sometimes and then like deep dive into things that you might have just liked on the surface, but never really completely immersed yourself in,
For
you
sure.
know? David Bowie's like such a good example of that because of the amount of material that his
Yes.
career spanned. But I know what you mean, and I think it's I can sense that about you because you will get into it. But you have really put yourself into a lot of different styles, and and it all makes sense though. Like you still have it's still you, whether it's you doing acoustic solo stuff or stuff with Dead Heavens. There's something that ties it together that makes sense to me as someone that's followed you for so long. But that's cool, man. And growing up in Queens, obviously a lot of legendary folks. I don't know how comfortable you are being referred to as a legend, but we're going to call you one. A couple people on the thread said that you are too. So, and thank you to everybody from other countries. I see we have people from Colombia and Chile and London. It's awesome that you're all watching right now. Thank you. Yeah, man. Well, so yeah, like a lot of hardcore and punk rock musicians are from Queens, where you're from, like the Ramones and Token Entry and Kraut and Murphy's Law and Leeway. Talk about growing up in Queens, what that was like for you back in those days.
Well, I grew up mostly in Rockaway Beach, and before, like when I learned how to play guitar and stuff, I was in Rockaway and in elementary school and all that. And Rockaway is sort of like, you know, it's up on a peninsula, and on one side is sort of like really, it's at that time especially like really like, you know, low income, like horrible conditions, sucks. And then in Bell Harbor, sort of like working class, and then there's these kind of like really, really wealthy communities. So you're just kind of like on this island out at sea slightly, and you're connected to Long Island, but you can see Manhattan.
Yep.
So, and you're surrounded by water, obviously. So if you know, as a kid, you can't really go anywhere except these, you know, 30, 40 blocks, you know, and so everyone knows each other, everyone, you know, it's basically a small town feeling, and you have a definite sense of being in Queens, but you're also just very into your own world. Rockaway is like very special in that way, and you're by the beach. Everything is oriented towards the beach, you know, so, but when I moved to, and so I got into hardcore when I was in Rockaway, but I was a little young, and you know, to get to Manhattan from Rockaway, you had to take the A train. It takes forever, and so you know, we would do it, but I wasn't allowed to, and so I'd have to leave early enough to get back in time so that, you know, my mom wouldn't know what was up. But we eventually moved to Astoria, Queens, when I was, I think, a junior in high school, and I saw like a Kraut sticker on a no parking sign.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, you know, if you in Rockaway, if you were like into punk, I remember I got a pair of Vans and just getting abused like nonstop. Like, it wasn't an area where you could be punk or step out of the norm in much. I mean, Long Island culture probably is very similar to Rockaway.
Absolutely. We got annihilated by people.
Yeah.
For being skaters, they would just beat the shit out of us all the time. It was horrible.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Rockaway's similar culture. So going to Astoria and seeing like a Kraut sticker, and then I saw these like, I was working at a Waldbaum supermarket, and I was wagon boy, and one day I see this whole squad of like punks walk into the supermarket, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm in a punk neighborhood. And eventually one day, one of those punks ended up getting a job at Waldbaum's, and I trained that guy and as a wagoneer, and that was Arthur Smilios, who plays bass in Gorilla Biscuits.
No shit. Wow, that's awesome.
People that walked in that day, I later on realized was like Anthony Comunale from Raw Deal, and Ernie Parada from Token Entry. I mean, they were all in Token Entry at that time, and so becoming friends with those guys, I like wasn't only listening to hardcore, but like found a squad to go with, and then I kind of got more plugged into like, what is Astoria about, and what is Queens in context of not only this punk music, but hip hop music too. So it's like the people that were like our age, you know, hip hop was just like such a New York thing. I mean, now it's like this global phenomenon, but for like a while in the 80s, it was like New York was like what Jamaica is to reggae, hip hop was to New York. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about music that was invented here.
Yeah.
Everything you're talking about was invented here. Yeah.
Like anybody that would do rap outside of New York would be kind of, you know, there'd be a cool single now and again, but it just didn't sound right. It's like the pizza. You need the special water to make the pizza, you know, or the bagels in New York, you know. So hip hop was happening at the same time in New York as hardcore, and like Queens was all about it. So it was just like there was something about the culture in Queens and what was going on, and you know, independent record labels that we just felt like, I mean, we were kids, but we felt we were, I mean, it's no shock, New York is a good place to be, but we were understanding like, fuck, New York is the shit. Like we got an aesthetic, we got a crew of people that are excited about music, and like if one person does something good, then the other person will hear it and want to top it, and then it just kind of creates this like real healthy conversation and kind of cross-pollination to where you have like, fuck dude, all these bands are great, you know. And I think that happened with hip-hop in New York too at the same time. So I think that's where you see a lot of like in New York hardcore as it's sort of like presented to the world, there's such a like that aspect.
Absolutely. It's the only hardcore scene that ever had that kind of vibe, I guess. Well, I guess like the suicidal tendency stuff had it too, but I know what you mean. Absolutely.
In more of like a sort of gang way, not in like a hip hop as music. I mean, New York does have like sort of that gang affiliation, but I think Suicidal was meant to be like a legit gang, you know, that's what I was, you know.
Yeah. But also that groove in New York hardcore, which we'll talk about in a bit, because all of your music always had groove.
Yeah.
So you met Arthur, and you're hanging out with Anthony from Raw Deal and Ernie Parada. What is Gorilla Biscuits your first band?
I had done like, you know, in Rockaway I had a band called The Road, and we made like punk songs, you know, making fun of people in our class and stuff like that, and you know, that kind of stuff. And but again, we were like, you know, 13. I mean, not to say that we couldn't have done it, but our parents weren't like letting us to go to A7's, you know, at 3 a.m. To play some punk gig. So we Gorilla Biscuits was sort of like started out as like, I just wanted to do a band, you know. And so I got a kid from high school to play drums. Eventually Ernie helped out, Arthur helped out. And I got to a point where, you know, I was playing guitar, we had some songs, and I was singing and playing guitar. And then I just realized, like, you know, to be a hardcore band, like, you need a front man, you know. And so if I'm a front man, then who's going to play guitar? So, you know, and Siv was like, to me, the coolest guy ever. And
he's from Queens also, where you're from?
He's from Jackson Heights. So we had just like all our Astoria squad I remember going to a party in Jackson Heights where I met Siv and like probably like 8 of my friends to this day.
Right.
And so we were all hanging out, you know, and we were all into hardcore, and we were sitting at this at Burger King on Northern Boulevard, and he's like, you know, I was like maybe saying like, shit, dude, I don't know if I can like sing and play guitar. I don't think it's cool. And Ernie said, why don't you get Siv to sing?
Wow. So it's Ernie, huh?
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, Siv, do you want to sing? And Siv was just like, yeah, cool.
Wow. And he had never done it before.
No.
That's awesome. I love that too. And yeah, wow, that's such cool history. And then, so you guys start.
Yeah. And sorry. Trying to read these comments. Someone's from Cooney Bren's from 84th Street and Northern Boulevard. You're right in the heart of it, right there.
Yeah, there you go. We got there's a couple people that were shouting out where they're watching from. So we got Queens in the house, and we got the Lower East Side people in the house. So I expected that. It's a New York,
Yeah, great.
it's a New York show.
Right.
Now, so you guys put out an EP, and then you put out Start Today. It was kind of a short-lived band. I'm sure people are going to have some questions, which I will read. I see I have 13 questions waiting for me in a box. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit. When and how did the band end? Because you did some really cool shit, and then I don't think I ever knew the story of like why the band ever stopped.
I guess with hardcore, kind of, it doesn't at that stage of the game anyway. Like there wasn't too many bands with more than an EP and an album. That's kind of was the way that it sort of went. And going in youth to today, like they made 2 albums and an EP, and then we made an extra EP for like a goodbye. So it kind of sort of seemed to me the shelf life of hardcore is about that long.
That's true.
That it would continue on. But I think, just doing the band at that time, it was never something that we were like, we're going to make it, in hardcore, and we're going to do this. It's like, we were amazed that we got to play CBGBs. We were amazed by the things that we were able to accomplish in the time that we accomplished. And we thought the records were great, but it didn't seem to us like a career thing. So, we weren't going to college, we were getting to other shit. And then, I started doing Quicksand, and, was able to kind of do them both for a while, but Gorilla Biscuits kind of lost gear for like a follow-up album, because obviously I was playing in Quicksand, I was in such a different headspace.
Of course.
And wanted to do something, and maybe this is like what happens with punk, and maybe why these things are so short-lived, because the thing that's really nice about hardcore is that it's has a minimalist and in a way a conservative bent to it, but I prefer to see it as a minimalist bent. So here you have like, you get, 4 pieces of wood, and you have to create, 12 different structures out of them, is like, and have them be interesting. So you're using the same elements to make, as varying kind of creations as you can. But, after you run through that for 40 songs or 30 songs, you're just like, dude, give me a triangle. And like,
yeah, absolutely. I know what you're saying.
As a musician, you know what I mean? You just naturally want to get out of it. But with hardcore, as soon as you step out of those confines, you're really off the ranch. You know what I mean? Like people will be just, fuck you, I hate you, you stab me in the back now.
Absolutely.
Well, you are like basically dead to me.
Yeah. No, it's true. Time goes by really quick on this show, so I'm gonna try. Because there's so much other stuff I want to get to.
Yeah.
Let's give me the quick story before we get into Quicksand stuff, and before I take questions. But at what point were you in Warzone? Talk about that for a second.
Warzone was sort of like my entrance into the big leagues. Like Gorilla Biscuits was like, we had made a demo. It wasn't like the best demo, we were in there, but we weren't a big band. We would play, like we would be second of 4 and stuff like that, and we were lucky to get gigs. We're trying to get gigs, but I don't know what happened, but maybe Rabies saw me play somewhere or something, or someone recommended me to him, because they had a big shakeup. Todd had left the band for Murphy's Law.
Mm-hmm.
Tito and Charlie, I don't know what happened to them, but they weren't in the band anymore either. So it was just, getting deep Warzone right now. It was like just Brad and Ray. And so they wanted to start a new band. So they invited me, and they needed a drummer too. So I said, why don't we try Luke out?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And actually Arthur was in the band too. So I don't know if I invited Arthur or Arthur invited me, but somehow
That's
Arthur.
so wild.
There was a time when it was me, Arthur, Luke, Brad, and Rabies in Warzone. And we played some really cool shows. I played on the first Revelation comp. I played bass on As One.
Oh shit, is that
Yeah.
right? I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I played on some stuff that I didn't play on the album, but stuff that I did kind of made into the album, some of it. And but basically I wasn't in the band that long, and Ray was just like mad cool to me and kind of like schooled me on the Lower East Side and just really brought me into you know, like where I was like on Avenue C and was like, holy shit, this is happening.
Hey, Luke's in the house. What's up, Luke? What a cool story, and what a cool person to have as like your dude bringing you around the Lower East Side, you know?
It was amazing. And he had a cool nickname for me that I just saw Luke wrote. Walter Righteous was my war.
That was your punk name, okay?
Dope name. I wish I shouldn't have shied away from that. Righteous is a lot catchier than Schreifels, but yeah, Ray was the best, man. He was such a showman and just a very cool guy.
Hell yeah. I'm so glad that in my life I got to see the tail end before he passed away.
Yeah.
I've seen Warzone a few times, and now I look back how special, you know, that was. Then Youth of Today, that was how long were you in Youth of Today for?
Youth Today, I think from Warzone. I think the Youth Today guys, Craig had left Youth Today, and they saw me playing with Warzone, I think. And then one day at the Pyramid, Richie and Purcell came up and asked me, hey, would you be interested in playing Youth Today? And at that time, Youth Today was like, to me, the Rolling Stones. Like, yes.
Oh, so good, man.
Yeah. So yeah. I was so psyched. It was a little uncomfortable talking to Ray Bees about it because, you know, I was going to go on tour with Youth Today. And I said, you know, this is an opportunity for me to go on tour. And, you know, and Ray was cool about it, although he gave Purcell hell about it. So yeah, that was in Youth Today, and that was, you know, we recorded an album, we did an EP, and you know, I toured the United States and a couple times, and Europe. The first time I went to Europe was with Youth Today, and you know, studied under the, you know, I would argue one of the greatest frontmen of all time in Ray Cappo, and
absolutely.
Purcell taught me how to use a guitar amp. Like,
wow,
they gave me the tools.
That's amazing. Yeah, those two guys are incredibly prolific. I mean, the whole scene that you guys came up in was obviously because it spawned so much beyond the hardcore thing. I mean, we'll talk about that in a sec. I'm gonna continue on to Quicksand before I start taking people's questions, because I'm afraid of losing time and not getting there. But so my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at some point during Gorilla Biscuits, you start this project Moondog that morphs into Quicksand, and you're the lead singer. You're not playing guitar. Charlie's playing guitar from Civ, right? So talk about, just tell me how Quicksand started and what you were trying to do musically.
Quicksand started when we were doing the kind of backstory was that in working on Start Today, I was writing the lyrics. So the way that I would get, you know, Civ and I would work in the studio to kind of like, you know, present the song. So I would have ideas. So rather than having to like talk through it or have to, you know, save time in the studio, I took like the cassette tape of the album with no vocals on it, and had another cassette tape, and I just sang into the box like how I wanted to go. So and I gave Civ that tape to just kind of like listen to and get a vibe. And then, you know, we go in the studio and Civ does it. It wouldn't be the same thing, but just to get like an idea of where I was, how I heard it. And then that tape got out somehow. So then I kind of got it in that, you know, got good feedback. And so then I was like, well, I should do something where I'm singing rather than making a tape for, you know, in this way. Like, right. I should, you know, return to that original idea of when, you know, that I wanted to be a singer in a band, or I don't know if I wanted to be, but I thought I could do it good. And so that was what Moondog turned into, which was me and Luke from GB.
Okay.
And we maybe like rehearsed once or twice, and then recorded this EP. and didn't really finish it, but I think a tape of it got out, a cassette of it, and you know, it was some sort of in between Gorilla Biscuits and Quicksand sort of step.
And it was just the two of you guys.
It was just the two of us. I'm gonna go in a room because I can see the lights going now.
Yeah, absolutely. Who was which early Quicksand songs were originally Moondog songs?
Let's see. When we first played, we played at ABC No Rio, and Sammy Siegler was the drummer, actually. Okay. That was Moondog. No, Moondog had Armand. I don't know. Damn, I'm getting too deep in the Moondog woods. With Quicksand, the songs that I remember coming up with first was Tom had a riff for Clean Slate, okay. the main riff for that, and he presented that. And Unfulfilled was kind of like Sergio and Alan sort of jamming.
Okay.
I kind of threw the guitar over it and constructed, we just constructed this like sort of spontaneous song. And then I think Omission, I had an idea for that song. Like I heard it as this is Led Zeppelin ripoff, but I just thought like we could do something with Led Zeppelin that people wouldn't hear it as Led Zeppelin. And then the last song was something Hypno Jam with Dan, and that was just a cool groove with Sergio and Alan. So I think within that EP, you really saw all the kind of different looks that we had. Tom kind of came in with this sort of like metal kind of background, and we had this kind of together like natural chemistry that kind of came together throughout it. And
yeah, it's unbelievable. Just like the four people, and how some bands just like couldn't really exist without, you know what I mean? Like some bands have different members come and go. Such a special lineup of people that just makes so much sense. And I've heard you compare Alan to John Bonham, which I totally agree, because he has that groove. And yep. And Sergio is just Sergio, man. He's so original. What's the conversation that takes place, or what's going on in your mind when you're shaping this sound? Because Quicksand really changed the game. What I was going to say is the influence of Quicksand spans. Personally, I know this to be true from talking to these bands, but Taking Back Sunday, Papa Roach, Deftones, POD, Thursday, Texas The Reason. It just like, whether it's new metal or post-hardcore, whatever, it's just there's so many different types of bands that pulled from what you did. Now, I'm just curious, like, what are you going for, and what's the conversation when you get the band together? Like, this is what I want to do,
At that time, I think the cool thing about Quicksand is there's not like, there's just a sort of, especially at that time, just a desire to do something like with no restrictions. I think we're talking about hardcore. Like, the thing about hardcore is it's got certain rules, and what you do within those rules is what kind of decides whether it's cool or not. You know what I mean? Like, because if you step out of those rules, you're not really doing it anymore. Right. You're doing something else. So with Quicksand, it was like we had all had experience in that, and I think like mainly Beyond, who was not a typical hardcore band. They were doing like interesting different kinds of time signatures, and they were doing interesting stuff within this format, and they were even using influences I just didn't even really know. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't even that deep on Iron Maiden, and like so I didn't know some of what they were coming from. So when you combined that, and GB, I think, is a pretty by the book hardcore band, but also we have like harmonica solos and, just weird aspects to it as well. So I think that kind of like willingness to play with What's Expected wanted to go like a lot further with it, because like hardcore at that stage, even though it's amazing that now that we're this all these many years later and it's arguably bigger than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm,
uh,
mm-hmm.
it had kind of run its course for another class. You know what I mean? It's like you had that first class of dudes like Ian MacKaye and John Brannon and the Circle Jerks and all. Most of those people, they might have been doing it professionally, but hardcore had run its course for a lot of those people after
Yeah.
2 years. You know what I mean? And for us, it had kind of done that too, and we were realizing that we were like musicians and we wanted to do something musical, and we were inspired by like Jane's Addiction was a big inspiration, because they were doing like cool rock music.
Absolutely.
From a point that radio stations didn't really know what to do with them yet, and they were underground. You know what I mean? So you could still have that aspect of hardcore where you could like go to the show and move up to the front. And
Absolutely, yeah.
and
They
that's
had those roots too. I mean, they always spoke about Bad Brains and things like that.
yeah.
So I'm going to take some questions because the people get mad if I don't take the questions.
Yeah.
I got about 18 questions sitting here in front of me.
Yeah, let's knock them out.
Okay, let's see. Oh, look at that. We got Joe from Outburst.
Yeah, JoJo.
What's up, guys? As promised, here's my Yacht Rock 3 songs, Wally.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's too long. I'm sorry, Joe. It won't show up on the screen.
Damn.
All right, but shout out to you, man. It's good to hear from you. Okay, let's see. Brett Inhaler. Dylan, let me hear a Don Fury tape. Oh, that's your brother, Dylan Schreifels. Let me hear a Don Fury tape of what would be the 3rd GB album. Anyway, those songs will ever see the light of day. Good question.
Gosh, I would love to hear that tape. I'm wondering what those songs would be. For me, the GB follow up was Civ, pretty much. Set Your Goals, and but I think doing the GB follow up at that time, we had probably like a handful of songs. But I would love to hear the tape. I don't know.
And some of those songs.
One song from GB ended up on the B side of the single when we first did our tour together in 2006 or 7 or something. After we had done the CBGB single, we got back together. The first reunion tour, we put out a 7-inch, and on the flip side of the main song, which is At the Matinee, was a song called Knee Deep in the something or other. And that wasn't the original title of the song, but the music was from like whatever 1987 or something like that. 88.
There you go. And some of those songs you said ended up on Set Your Goals.
I don't think any of them did. I think the only Set Your Goals wrote, no, none of them did. But I think the songs, I think we maybe played 1 or 2 of them in Europe in 1991, but they weren't really super strongly developed. It's just like another reality that we'll never get to live in, if that ever happened. I don't think they're going to see the light of day, no.
Okay, there you go. And then let's see. Jeremy Holohan, what's up, man? How you doing? Is it true that you helped write Super Touch's Searching for the Light?
I was there. Yeah, I wrote the bass line. So I'm actually on the what is the 7 Together compilation, but I'm not credited for playing on that because and Mark apologized to me about this some years ago, but they had gotten a new bass player and they wanted to make him feel included, so I didn't get credited on for playing that, which is totally water under the bridge. But it's I am actually proud of my playing on that song, and it's such a dope song. It's like of hardcore, like doing something interesting against the grain and still counting. That's a super great example.
Hell yeah. Okay, so we got another good question here from Zoe, and this is a long screen name you have, Zoe. But we got your question. When can we expect another Quicksand album?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We're just kind of like when it happens kind of. But I'll, you'll know. We'll make sure you find out.
And you guys are still you're still continuing though to do stuff at some point down the line.
Yes, we are the doing getting interiors out there, and the touring that we did, and you and I went on tour. It was just like so
Thank
much
you for
fun.
that.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. And yeah, we loved it. So we'll certainly be doing something, but just like when, or especially with I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen really at this. I have faith that everything will work out, you know what I mean? But we don't have anything in store right now that I'm can really talk about or anything.
Yeah, I want to thank you for that too, and I want to mention something about you and your bandmates that's really nice, which is that Eddie from Take Back Sunday is a very old friend of mine. We grew up together, and when Rival Schools took Take Back Sunday on tour, that was a big deal, and the story of how that ended up happening, where kind of Sammy hooked it up, was not that different from you helping my band out. So I just want to thank you and your friends for being so cool and helping out the younger guys.
Dude, it's family. I mean, it's the coolest thing about, you're listing all these different bands that are, with Psych Quicksand or that we're all in the same family. We're all in the same lineage, the same tree. So, I love Eddie. He's had so much fun with him on that tour, and it's amazing to watch those dudes go from driving around in a crappy van to all the success that they've had, and that just makes me feel like proud to be in such a creative community that it's still kicking. There's still so much going on. You know what I mean? So many talented people.
Absolutely. We're going to take a couple more questions. I know there's a lot here, guys, but we are eventually going to run out of time. Okay, so here we go. Lenny wants to know, what made you think of putting a harmonica on a hardcore record?
Hey Lenny. I was at an airport somewhere and saw this book, Harmonica for Dummies, and it's like blues harp, and the book came with its own harmonica, and so I learned how to play blues harp. I always thought it was really cool. I remember seeing the Rolling Stones when I was a little kid on some black and white footage of them doing some blues cover, and just thought it was so cool how Mick Jagger would just like bust out the harmonica. Or no, it was Mick, because Brian Jones played harmonica as well. So I was playing blues harmonica at the same time that we were doing Start Today. So I was just desperate to play harmonica, and it was crazy enough that it worked, I guess.
Awesome. Okay, got a couple more from Balamar Shakti. What's up, dude? What's your approach to songwriting in general, but more specifically within Quicksand during the 90s?
Songwriting generally, I'll just kind of take it however I can get it. You know what I mean? If I have like an idea, generally it's like you're hearing voices. You just be walking down the street, be like, and you just gotta get it out. You got to record the idea, or or a lyric or a concept or something like that. Whatever you can get that initial spark and kind of take it to the finish line, and however that happens is not. I don't really have I have certain kind of processes that have led to success, but there's not one singular way of doing it for me. I have certain tricks that I'll try, but it's usually trying to just stay focused. Don't be lazy. Quit when you're, forcing it. In Quicksand, it was like, I was always thinking of things, obviously, like I'm taking into account like what the musical landscape is, and like where we fit, where we want to go. Do we want to say something heavy or something more soft, or some sort of other kind of like range of emotion for like, or whatever tempo
Hmm.
in a general sense. And then with Quicksand, I would always be thinking of, playing against type to create something that people hadn't heard. And also, what the strengths of our guys, you know what I mean? I'm
Right.
always thinking like, I need to leave space for Tom because he's going to rip a solo here that's going to give me that amount of time to like think of something interesting when the vocals come back in, or I'll have more power. So, let's make sure that we reserve some space there. And I understand like what I like about Alan's drumming. So I'm going to write songs and riffs towards those strengths. And Sergio, I always know how you're either going to want to go with his idea and jump onto his train, but you want to give space for him to thread whatever you're doing, because he'll find a melody within whatever riff you're doing that will kind of bind with whatever you're doing and create some new thing. And so I'm always anticipating those kind of reactions to things, and try to play to those strengths, and at the same time like do something that I think is going to be like cool, bring the band in a cool direction, or something that I just think is badass and is going to, I feel like I can do this, but with Quicksand and in the 90s, we're drawing from different influences and not being afraid to incorporate them into our own style, rather than just, our peers were important, but we saw our peers in places that maybe they didn't see us, in different places, like
Absolutely.
I wanted Daisy Chainsaw to hear who Quicksand was. So, I started ripping them, you know what I mean? I was in competition with them, you know what I mean? Or whoever it might have been at that time. But I was thinking Manic Compression, Daisy Chainsaw was a big influence. Or, My Bloody Valentine, for example. Like in hardcore, My Bloody Valentine was not a thing. They were not considered hardcore. But if you were listening to that and mixing it with your sort of, I learned how to play in hardcore, so I can't undo that, and
it's part of your DNA.
Yeah, and that's cool because hardcore is like amazing, but what do I allow to infuse with it and sort of, allow to kind of connect to that, and I think that's what you're playing with, or in songwriting for me.
Sergio says that he loves you. He's watching us.
Oh, I love you, Serge. Miss you, brother.
What's up, Serge? We had Serge on the show a couple weeks ago. We're running out of time, and we didn't get to talk about as much stuff as I would have liked. But as we wind down, one question I saw people asking, do you think that we'll ever hear or see Rival Schools again?
Man, I would love to. It's just, I would say, we don't have any plans.
Right,
but,
of course.
And definitely this has put things on the line. But, I always go back to those Rival Schools records every once in a while. And, we have, I'm really proud of those records. And I think we were doing something really, really cool. And I just love those songs.
Those are unbelievable records. I mean, that's a common thread here that I think, as I've been watching the comments fly by, and just as anybody that's a fan of yours, Rival Schools is always mentioned. And I want to give a shout out to your other projects too that we didn't, because you have so much stuff. It's so hard to get to it. But I've seen Dead Heavens a bunch of times, and I love Dead Heavens. I love Drew, and Walking Concert, of course, and Vanishing Life. You have so much out there for people to check out. And I suggest during the quarantine, if you're all locked down, to listen to all of Walter's music. I like to wind down the show with some fun, like top 5 this, top 5 that, if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with this. Top 5 New York hardcore records.
Victim of Pain, easy. Like albums, or just, it could be EPs?
We'll go EPs. That's cool.
Okay. and the Warzone EP, which features Straight Ahead. That's 2. Break Down the Walls.
Classic.
Yeah. Sick of It All EP.
Hell yeah, that was just re-released on Rev, I think.
Yeah. Shit, I'm kind of skipping on the old school, like Antidote, man. Damn.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, that first record.
Is that 5 already, or
That's 5. That's 5 already.
fuck? I can't kick anybody off now, but I would throw in honorable mentions for Urban Waste. EP is amazing. Beastie Boys' first EP is great. Yeah, whatever. It's a deep well of hits.
Yeah, there really is. There's too much around here. Now, if we're going non-hardcore, just in general, if you have top 5 records you're stuck with during the lockdown, you only have 5 records. What are they and why?
That's really, really hard. My brain is so scattered now, like with playlists that I like. Albums are. I'm really into this Tommy James and the Shondells record, Crimson and Clover. I've been rocking record a lot. And I'm wearing a My Bloody Valentine shirt, so I haven't been listening to them though. I've been listening to Alice Coltrane.
Okay.
I really like her. What I'm hearing from her. I mean, she's kind of. I've just recently discovered. Fela Kuti's always good.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Who else have I been listening to? Oh, I like this band. Mount Kimby is great.
I've heard of them. Yeah, I gotta check that out.
And Black Midi I've been listening to a lot. They're amazing as well. Black Midi is I saw them in LA in the fall. They just like when you see a show and you don't know anything about it, and you're like, damn, that band is good.
Hell yeah.
So Black Midi is another one I've been listening to.
You always have your ear to the ground, which I always think is really cool. Always. You're always posting about new bands and checking out new bands. And you mentioned so many bands that, I haven't even heard of. So I'm going to go check them out and see what I'm missing. Well, we're winding down here in the last 3 minutes. Do you have any shout outs or any announcements or anything? Like, I don't know if you have anything planned, like maybe quarantine performances or anything you're working on?
I don't. When the quarantine first happened, Artie called me to be interviewed, and I just figured I'm going to sit this out for a while. At that time, everyone was doing like an acoustic performance, and I just felt like it's got so crowded so quickly that I was going to wait till the dust settled on it.
Right.
So when you wrote to me, I was like, fuck, dude, I got to do it. I got to do this. So I've been just happy like with the slowness of everything. So I don't have any like performances or anything like that planned. But definitely wanted to shout out to St. Vitus crew. If I